Okay, international business class. All right. See, we have people. I have 5 people, and a quarter of a person.
5 1/4.
Yep, 5 1/4. I should get a bonus point for that.
1 1/4, Daddy.
Okay. Good evening. I appreciate everybody coming today. As CEO of Smith Auto Manufacturing, I'd like to announce a great plan that we have to expand our manufacturing operations. We're going to be expanding to Vietnam. And I know that seems like a long way to expand, but this is an opportunity to grow this company that we just cannot pass up. While this is certainly an aggressive move, I would like to be clear about a couple of things. It is not, no way going to affect our production here in the U.S. In fact, it's going to help our production here by allowing us to focus on automobiles that are made just on this continent. By expanding to Vietnam, like I said, we're going to free up production here in the U.S. so we can focus solely on new and existing vehicles made here. Meanwhile, the Vietnamese facility is going to focus on vehicles made for the Chinese and Asian markets. For instance, Buick, Cadillac, and Audi have a multitude of vehicles that are made just for the Chinese and Asian market that they do not ship over here. So by focusing there, we're able to free up some production here, and we have a facility there. It's going to be better in the long run. And then second, expanding to Vietnam will not only grow this company in a global capacity, it will positively affect job growth and our bottom line here in the U.S. There are some economic, culture, and political points that I want to discuss first before we get to the. Now, I realize that some may view an expansion into Vietnam as risky or even controversial. After all, we did this type of war there that ended 42 years ago and cost us many servicemen lives. And not everybody will be happy about our decision. But since the war, Vietnam has become one country. They're no longer North and South. Politically, the country has become a socialist republic, and it's governed by a highly centralized system dominated by the VCP, or the Vietnamese Communist Party. As the force controlling the system, the party exercises leadership in all matters. The government manages state affairs through a structure that parallels the party's apparatus, but it's unable to act without direction from the party. So, in short, the Communist Party runs everything in Vietnam. Surprisingly, though, they do have a constitution. I was actually surprised to learn this doing some research. This is their third one, and it was adopted on November 28th of 2013. And like I said, this is the third one since the reunification of the country in 1976. They actually do have a legislative body, kind of similar to our Congress, and it's vested in the National Assembly of Vietnam. And although it is a legislative body, it is basically controlled by the Communist Party as well. Vietnam does also have a Supreme Court, and this was actually surprising too. That's completely independent of the executive branch. So they're not party affiliated. They do have a Supreme Court, and it is the highest court of appeals for their citizens. Excuse me. And like I said, all of this is better than we had hoped for. And although it's a communist country, at least they do have a legislative branch and a court system, instead of just being a totalitarian state. So although we don't agree with their politics, and although we may not agree with necessarily some of their human rights records, at least there is some recourse, and they're kind of moving more toward a democracy than what they have been in the past. In line with the Communist Party in the communist country, they were a centralized and planned economy where the party controlled everything, but they have since moved more toward a mixed economy and have become a go-to country for investors in Southeast Asia. And economically, Vietnam will surprise you. In the last 30 years, they have experienced tremendous growth. They even joined multiple trade organizations such as AFTA, the World Trade Organization, ASEAN, which is the Southeast Asian Nations Coalition, and APEC. As of 2016, Vietnam's gross domestic product is $219 billion, which puts their rank at 47th in the world. It's actually a lot higher than I thought it was going to be for a tiny little country. And they have a GDP growth of 6.1%. By sector, their gross domestic product is agriculture at 17%, industry at 39%, and services at 44%. Their inflation rate is only 2.8%. It's actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be too. And it's actually a lot better than it used to be. And that's as of 2016. And their unemployment rate is low at 3.7%. They are projected to rank 68th in 2018 in ease of doing business, as far as getting started in a country, the hoops you have to jump through with the government, regulations, everything like that. And actually, PricewaterhouseCoopers forecast that Vietnam may be the fastest growing of the world's economies, with a potential annual gross domestic product growth rate of 5.1%. They do have their main trading partners include the United States, China, South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and the European Union. Their main exports are clothes and shoes, which that is not surprising if you ever look at the tags. Marine products, crude oil, electronics, rice, and coffee. I did not know they produce coffee there. Their main imports include machinery and equipment, petroleum products, steel products, and raw materials for their clothing and shoe industries. Vietnam's currency is the Vietnamese dong. It has an exchange rate with the US dollar of about almost 23,000 dong for $1 US, and that's as of January 1st of this year. Vietnam also became a member of the International Monetary Fund, or the IMF, in 1956. In 1998, they were in a slow recovery after if you guys remember, the Southeast Asia had an economic crisis. So, as a member of ASEAN, Southeast Asian Nation Trade Organization, their best solution was to take out loans from the IMF. It's kind of surprised they used the IMF. It's more democratically controlled countries, more of a common international monetary fund. An international monetary fund is like a giant bank for the rest of the world to take loans from. They've bailed out Greece numerous times.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This was actually surprising. Vietnam also has two trading centers for stock markets. One in Ho Chi Minh City, and the other one in Hanoi. And each trading center runs those separate stock exchanges. So a little bit like we have NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange, they have two as well. As of the early 2000s, dozens of companies from over 50 countries are doing business in Vietnam, including IBM, Apple, Kodak, Pepsi, Mobil Oil, Hewlett Packard, Sony, Samsung, Ford, and Philip Morris. Kind of surprising with the tobacco, but Philip Morris has a presence there. And as you can see, Vietnam is definitely open for business. Culture is very important when expanding to an overseas market. Although we are an American country, we're still guests in a host country. So the last thing we want to do is to offend our host country and possibly be expelled from there. Especially for my time in the military, they will kick you out if you offend them. And it's amazing what hand gestures, how you sit, how you cross your legs, don't cross your legs, offends them greatly. And we're expected to know that when we go there. There's not a lot of grace period in that. So definitely something that's important we want to keep an eye on. Now Vietnam is primarily a Buddhist nation. Introduced them during the Chinese domination all the way back in the 2nd century BC. And although it's a major religion throughout the, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. Although it's a major religion throughout the world, Christianity does not play a huge role in Vietnam. Now, kinship does. Kinship and what they call clanship. So, unlike Western culture's emphasis on individualism, Vietnam places their emphasis on family and clanship, with a clan patriarch their own altar, and death commemorations attended by the entire clan. So if we were all one clan, you would be the patriarch, and if you passed away, the entire clan would be present at your commemoration. So it's definitely a little bit different than what we do here. Business-wise, we would definitely want to watch our dress. Suits and ties and subdued colors are normal. Bright colors of any kind is not appropriate. So the pastels and the yellows and bright blues, we can't do that. And while most people in America view gift giving in business as a bribe or not appropriate, and definitely illegal in some cases here, in Vietnam, it is important due to the significance of interpersonal relationships in their culture. Unlike here, business relationships often become personal relationships as well. The more you share your personal life, including family, hobbies, political views, aspirations, the closer you are in your business relationship. And sometimes a lot of time is spent discussing matters outside of business. Then a lot of time the other party is also making up their mind about you, about your deal based on how much he sees your personal relationship in him. So it's not just meet and greet and be polite and the business lines up like it is here. Over there, you have to get to know each other. You have to establish a personal relationship before any business gets done. Definitely different than what we do here. Seniority is also very important to the Vietnamese, especially if you're dealing with a state-owned or government body. Instead of addressing the other party as Mr. or Mrs. and so on, it is always appropriate to address the other party by his designation. So if it's somebody in the state, you use whatever their title is. If it's doesn't matter, but you just don't go with Mr. or Mrs. You definitely want to use the designation of whatever they earned. When giving out a business card or a brochure, and this is very important, it doesn't seem like it would be, make sure you start with the most senior person before moving down the line. And when giving out a business card or receiving one, ensure that you're stretching out both hands with the card, not just one hand, which would be normal to us. Remember to face the card you're giving out in a manner such that the receiving party gets it, facing him correctly. So if you're handing out your business card, you want to hand it to them with two hands out so that when they get it, they can immediately pull it up and look at it and read it. So that is important to them. It seems kind of crazy to us. These are just a few of the culture differences between us and Vietnam. I would strongly suggest that all of us read up on this subject. There's a great website called Vietnamese-culture.com. And again, we want to make sure that we practice their customs while in their country. It's one thing I learned in the military. We don't go overseas and impose American values on a country that's been around 3 or 4 times longer than we have. A lot of guys have. I've seen guys get in trouble for it. Definitely respect where we're at. Respect how they do things. It's something we have to pay attention to. Now on to the biggest reason we're here. The plan is to move, like I said earlier, our automotive ready to production to Hanoi, Vietnam. And we chose Hanoi for its high population and available workforce. They have just under 8 million people in Hanoi alone, and that's the second largest city. It is the capital, but Ho Chi Minh City is actually large, has a much larger population. I like the idea of being centralized in the capital. They are very close to shipping channels. And they have a great blend of East and West cultures. There's so many people, business people, doing business there, relocating there, expanding there, that it's a good mix. It's a good place for us to be, other than just maybe in a city, maybe more like Ho Chi Minh, where it's strictly a Vietnamese culture. It might be a little bit better for us. And they're right on the water. They're right on the shipping channels. That will help cut down shipping costs, shipping times, delivery, everything. I stated earlier, this plant will service the cars that are made for the Asian market only. Not going to be shipping anything from that plant back over here. That's what our plant here is for. It's to focus on the cars that are here and are made here on this continent. And that's in Mexico. Ford's have a lot down there. And everything is made in the U.S. plus GM's plants in Canada. Again, this will help us in many ways with lower shipping costs to our Asian countries, more production for the cars made on this continent here. We actually expect it to make us have to hire more people for our plants here. And it's going to be a bigger and better bottom line for Smith Auto Manufacturing. So, thanks everybody for coming.